God fucking damn it, you fucking won. Hi, my name is Hidden Heroine, and I'm back to commentary. I'm repeating a mistake from a year ago, covering an absolute nobody, and I can hear a British ginger love faintly in the distance about it. I'm mostly surprised this even has to be a thing, but apparently it is, with people going as far as to call this the next RoSA call. And given I've seen nobody do even an iota of research, including the people who were part of this, I returned with a banger of a Nothing Burger because we gotta set some records straight. Also, because frankly, I love Nothing Burger Slob. Please feed me more. This is entertaining me and my minuscule fan base a lot. Join my Discord, by the way. I originally streamed about this back in June in a 3-hour stream that I realized nobody of the people that are proclaiming the Dreamer situation is just like the RoSA call actually put the effort of listening to. You know, me, the main person affected by and involved in this situation. And given I realized during research of just how much I left out and didn't cover, I have now decided to condense all of this bullshit into a video. Let me note this. This is not some big old call out where I point out that Dreamer is some sort of evil menace that needs calling out or deplatforming. It's me laughing and turning somebody being an absolute dumbass on the internet into a story time. Whilst some people seem to think that Dreamer is nothing but a troll, I personally think that he's a mentally ill, self-centered, if not borderline narcissistic, self-maturing, always needs to be a victim joke of a human being online. And frankly, with this going on as long as it has, and everybody forgetting I kickstarted this whole thing, I feel I'll low-key get to make this into content for fellow artists and drama mongers alike, without the weird waving of my morals and ethics to put myself on a pedestal about how I am so much better than Dreamer. Oh, and quick aside, I will not be reading out any screenshots this time for sake of time, meaning they'll be on screen as I am yapping, meaning jingle 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 artists, this is a video where you'll have to look at the screen for me. So let's talk timeline.
Women aren't funny!
On the 9th of March 2024, Gilded Pooh held a now unlisted stream called The Pedantic Pedant of Pedantry. The purpose of the stream doesn't matter, but what happens within the stream chat does. This is what kickstarts almost everything that's about to follow in this video. So let's get into this. Vlad ends up discussing the instance around Kumo being accused of getting a girl to cut his name into her thigh, and Dreamer offers this brilliant take. The audience within the stream immediately latches onto this and proceeds to ridicule him all throughout. This culminates in Dreamer being pulled into a call on StreamYard, where he proceeds to keep going, challenging Vlad's points and attempting to point out ableism, defend doodle tones, and so much more. This is also where we meet Mr. Fields, the account that Dreamer will go on to claim impersonated him later. Remember this guy, he'll be important. It ends in Dreamer claiming that Pooh got trolled through the StreamYard chat to which he was invited to, and in response to this message, Mr. Fields says this in chat, which will turn into the infamous screenshot that Dreamer is going to use to claim it was Mr. Fields who impersonated him, and this was the admittance thereof. However, throughout this entire stream, I could find no instance of Dreamer being impersonated. And in fact, it seems that it was Dreamer challenging Gilded, and when that didn't work out, claiming it was all an elaborate troll, to which Mr. Fields replies by making fun of Dreamer further. Keep this context in mind, because Dreamer will pretend this doesn't exist.
Why can't we all just get along?
Boy, now I'm going back in time for this one. On the 18th of March 2024, Akuma holds a live stream regarding the collapse of Senate and Hopeless Peach's claims of abuse, where a live call between Akumu, Kumu, me, Gilded Pooh, and other people happens. The content of this stream is again a side note, but what is important is that Dreamer makes his second appearance here. He lurks in the stream and seems to crash out at Pooh about apparently Pooh telling him to end his life, and according to him, gets impersonated by somebody called Mr. Fields, who sends a message saying that it scares him that Vlad has kids, and that Vlad's kids will game end eventually someday anyway. We can see that people mistake Mr. Fields for Dreamer as they tag him to response and chastise him, and I personally point the comment out to Gilded directly.
Oh, keep your thoughts there. What did Dreamer just say? Something did Dreamer say something about Gilded's kid?
I don't know. I wasn't.
Hold on. Where was it said? Oh, okay. Never mind. Never mind. I can't find it.
I found it. I don't know if it matters, but I found the comment about Dreamer that I think people are referring to.
What does it say?
It says his kids are going to self-delete eventually.
Nice.
Nothing afterwards here is of note. Dreamer claims this wasn't him, and eventually the conversation moves on. This will become important moving forward. We're going to go into the proof of this impersonation later when it matters a bit more, so hold on to this. I'm sorry I'm turning y'all into a cushion with how many pins I'm putting into this, but I swear it'll make a completed piece eventually. Dreamer originally joined Catslayer on the 27th of April back in 2024. He behaved very normally throughout this day, engaging with people in the server, sharing memes, and so on. At some point, which I can't pinpoint exactly because I like access to the audit log, and because it doesn't fucking matter, Lamau, he leaves. He returns to Catslayer on the 3rd of January in 2025 with this fantastic entrance.
I want to talk to Lyle one-on-one on how he's letting people harass autistic people systematically while pretending to care about our struggles.
He was, according to Lio, actually invited for a one-on-one conversation with Lio. If we look at the messages in the entryway, Lio doesn't remember why he invited him, and I couldn't find any fights online indicating the invitation. As you can see, at this point, no hostility, no quarantining, nothing. It genuinely seems like Lio's just looking for a conversation. This conversation will occur on the same day in an 18-minute call in which, shocker, Lio doesn't berate this person and Dreamer breaks down about having no friends and how about he wants to take on the responsibility of making the internet a safer and better space and how he has nowhere to stay. Lio offers his server and calls it a safe space. This will be later used against Lio. Throughout this entire call, there's no yelling, screaming, or berating. If anything, all there is genuine concern and kindness. Here's a small excerpt from the call.
Yourself. So all you can really do is set your own standard and find like-minded people who also agree with that standard. You're not going to force other people to abide by your values. You can't. And frankly, you shouldn't want to control anybody. There's not a task anybody human is capable of.
None of we fix anything.
We fix things by setting we fix things by setting our own examples and moving forward with them. You can't change the world by yourself. And you certainly can't change the world by getting onto commentary channels for using words you don't like.
And low-key, I will not go further into this call. For one, the call is out there, by the way, in the doc someone released about the situation. Hi Lulu, please take your sex toys off of your shelf and stop posting about them on forums where you think no one sees. So if you really want to listen to it, go find it. I'm however going to sit the entire transcript on the call on the screen currently. I'm also not releasing the full call myself because despite Dreamer and anyone who's muddied the situation to the point of being unrecognizable, weaponizing anything they can get their hands on, I recognize Dreamer was emotionally vulnerable in this call, and I don't want to actively share that to the world for a gotcha, though I will happily point people in the right direction for the sake of evidence. The important part here is that there was no hatred, yelling, or vitriol. In fact, there was concern for Dreamer and his mental health and an offer to become part of the community. Dreamer proceeds to remain in the server, regularly posts, and engages with the community.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
On the 23rd of February, Beckett, aka Copenseed, holds a livestream in which he originally covers Lethead Fan versus Goddammit Malcolm, link in the description. During this, Dreamer makes an appearance within the stream and immediately begins picking a fight with Gilded Poo over his takes. I've put up the most notable instances of this on screen, and as you can see, it's Gilded who brings up what he perceived as Dreamer's attacks on his child, which kickstarts Beckett taking notice of this situation and offering his platform for Vlad and Dreamer to hash things out. A call between the three of them occurs in which it is pointed out to Vlad for the first time that Dreamer, apparently, was impersonated. Neither believe his claims, and a brief recap brings no result. There is, to Vlad's knowledge, no impersonator in his chat, which makes sense. Dreamer was never impersonated within Gilded's chat. We'll get there. This is a strange move given there was something we can consider direct evidence of impersonation in Akumo's chat that Dreamer will provide in June of 2025 after all of this already occurred. The conversation ends on the note that all of this is gay and stupid and needs to stop, and Beckett ending the call.
Am I so out of touch? No, It's the children who are wrong.
On the 28th of February, Dreamer releases a video perpetuating the situation further. It's 1.5 hours in length and covers Lyle Convoy, Beckett, Gilded Pool, and Akumo, actively tagging those four in the description. It receives a total of 240 views and 12 comments, and barely makes it in within the commentary community. I'm not going to cover the entire video, we're going to see my live review and text later, but I've linked a Google Drive with the original video in the description for you to watch. So instead, here's a brief summary of important instances. Please enjoy Subway Surfer footage as I try to keep your attention through this plot summary. Most of the video discovers how Dreamer had his run-ins with Akuma and Gilded, which is mostly because he offered takes within the stream chat that people don't seem to take too kindly to, and actively ridiculed. The video also details the original impersonator instances in which Dreamer claims he was impersonated by someone in live chat twice. The first time occurred within Vlad's chat according to him, this did not happen, and a second time within what seems to be Akumo's stream where Dreamer claims someone changed their profile name and picture to mimic his and say the following quote, "His kids are going to self-delete eventually." His video does not actually include any evidence of this, and it's him just rambling and pulling a "trust me bro." Again, we will get to this in a bit, I swear. He also goes on to present various criticisms of Beckett, pointing out inconsistencies he's perceiving, like Beckett talking about caring for victims and then 180ing and saying he's just covering things for the teehees. And then Dreamer goes into his issues with Vlad and a specific video about gamer devs and the different verbiage Vlad uses throughout this. He proceeds to talk about Vlad's child, we'll get there, and then switches topics entirely. Dreamer then proceeds to get onto Lyo, expressing disdain for the fact Lyo was associating with these people. He also complains about no longer existing and lists solitude, this will be important later. A huge part of this video is Dreamer almost martyring themselves as the savior of the internet that is so above Vlad, Akuma, and Beckett's actions, and how he shows so much more empathy than all of them while everyone else is so filled with hate and needs to change. This is also where we see Dreamer use his trauma for the first time in order to win an argument with Akumo and make him change his ways. This will become a pattern. He ends the video with saying these people aren't the worst people he knows, and some meme edits. That's about everything that's important, given this video is long and very unscripted with no real substance, so I don't need to cover it much further. Again, listed in the drive below if you really want to listen to it. On the 18th of March, Dreamer releases his claims of being impersonated within Gilded Poos and Akuma's chat to the general community chat in Catslayer. The wording throws people off immediately, and a few people start engaging with the claims. None of them seem to particularly care, and point out that Dreamer shouldn't care either, especially given it happened an entire year ago. I guess I promised it, and we're here now, so let's just talk about the impersonation as a whole and the fucking evidence thereof so I don't get accused of leaving proof out. Dreamer claims he was impersonated twice, once in Gilded's chat and one in Akumo's chat. This is a lie, as I pointed out earlier, because Dreamer was never impersonated within Vlad's live chat, merely ridiculed for claiming he was trolling Vlad. 3 months later though, in June of 2025, Dreamer proceeds to actually provide evidence of impersonation occurring within Akumo's chat, and we can see that I mistake Mr. Fields here as Dreamer reading his message out.
Never mind, I can't find it.
I found it. I don't know if it matters, but I found the comment about Dreamer that I think people are referring to.
What does it say?
It says his kids are going to self-delete eventually. Through the original screenshot from Vlad's chat in Catslayer, I was able to see that the account Dreamer shows us in Gilded's chat is connected to this account, which we've previously seen in Gilded's chat. Meanwhile, this is what the account looks like in Akumo's chat, which doesn't match the account from Gilded's live chat, right? Reason for that being that it is in fact an alt account of the original Mr. Fields 11 account, which I was able to confirm after some research and with the help of some friends, meaning that congratulations Dreamer, you had a point. You were impersonated once apparently. Shame you lied about it occurring twice and maliciously framed someone's messages as admittance of something they've never done before they've even supposedly done it. And it's even more of a shame that it doesn't matter because of your actions that followed everything else, so the impersonation, while true, becomes a footnote in everything else. Now I am going to say that the people do doubt the validity of this, namely Vlad, saying there's a possibility that the Mr. Fields account merely repeated what Dreamer had said and that Dreamer's message was deleted so we can't access it anymore. Now I am going to give Dreamer the benefit of the doubt here, barely, but you'll see. Regardless of all that, keep in mind, while you as the audience now know about all this, the people in Catslayer have in fact not seen the evidence from the Akumo stream and only got to see one screenshot from the Gilded Poo chat, which is an insanely out of context crop of Mr. Fields, which in hindsight is so fucking malicious. You know that you weren't impersonated in that chat, Dreamer, and framing Mr. Fields like this is insane when you had apparently actual proper proof that you waited 3 months to present, but whatever. The fact you're framing somebody for admittance of something that didn't occur in Gilded's chat or admittance of something they hadn't even done yet is manipulative and conniving. You knew what you were doing. You knew you were lying because you had the proof. You framed this the way you did on purpose, and I wouldn't care so much if this wasn't more proof of your very persistent little habit of rewriting history wherever you see fit. But we'll get there. Fun fact, apparently Mr. Fields is an actual child according to the messages in Vlad's server, but we have no direct confirmation of such. But if true, Dreamer got pissy over a literal, actual child impersonating them to fuck around with them, an entire year after it happened. In any case, things returned to normal within CalL after the discussion regarding the impersonation claims being made, and Dreamer engages further with the community. It's clear people don't hold ill will or otherwise tease him more.
Good Lord, what is happening in there?
Aurora Borealis?
Aurora Borealis.
And so, the fateful 23rd of March runs around. This is where I discovered the video he made titled The Hypocrites, and I'm half sure it's because Beckett tweeted about this, but don't quote me on this. I put it into CalL asking if anyone had watched it before. No one had, so I went through it. Rather quickly, we realized Dreamer was in the server, and Pumpkin, a mod, decided to put him into the Outback. Reason? CalL has a nasty habit of dogpiling people when they are perceived as in the wrong, and have uncontrolled arguments where people are getting overwhelmed, so in order to have a proper conversation when he's awake, he was temporarily quarantined. I proceed to go through the video, essentially live reviewing it as I go, pointing out my personal issues such as the story about the impersonators not adding up, multiple random topic switches, lack of evidence, the length and rambling nature of the video, and this is important, a part where, in my personal opinion, I felt Dreamer was implying that Vlad would be abusive or neglectful or whatever you want to call it if his child met certain criteria. I've addressed this quote earlier, but now that I have access to the video again, it goes as follows.
He utterly despises people who call for empathy. Does he really think that a dev with progressive values deserves death way more than like a murderer or a pedophile? This honestly needs to be discussed. I don't know why he thinks this way, maybe he was hurt, and I could empathize with that. He clearly thinks that people who are kind should be bullied and coerced into turning like him by being beaten into submission. What's worse is that he's a father. Is this what he tells his own children? That no one deserves respect, so don't give and take it? Be callous and mock those who think differently than you? I'm gonna say this very clear. That doesn't help children grow up to be healthy adults. I would know. I hope he actually does love his child, like teaches them to be forgiving them for their mistake. Like, what happens if his kids turns out to be gay or trans? What happens if they turn out to be autistic? What happens if they become more compassionate than him and turns to those who he hates the most? Will he still be there for them and love and support them all the same?
In my personal opinion, the entire last part, the question implied that Vlad would be neglectful, and Dreamer puts doubts on if Vlad would still be loving if X or Y happened. I also took issue with this because the entirety of Vlad's child even being a talking point was so fucking unnecessary, it's insane. I don't know why you people are so obsessed with bringing his underage child into the equation and pass judgment on his parenting abilities to make a point that didn't need his child to make it. You can dislike Vlad and point out issues you have with the guy without weaponizing the fact he's a parent. So I'm sorry, I didn't like it and I expressed as much, and I think when Dreamer over there makes a public video, I'm allowed to take public issue with it. I can't believe I have to defend fucking Gilded Poo out of all people because you people are weird. After I express this point, another staff member, Hive, comes into the conversation and we all agree someone should sit Dreamer down and have a conversation with him because a lot of his intentions are really unclear. At this point, I asked to be led into the Outback as the person who watched the video because I had questions, and that'd be quicker than making staff watch an over-hour-long video. So that's what happens. So now we get into the Out. I mentioned this earlier, but this is essentially a quarantine used for many different things. For the most part, it's used directly to confront people without having the peanuts chime in unnecessarily. It can only be accessed by people with a specific role, staff, and lio. And yes, it has a chat dedicated to watch what's going on in there, but frankly, while I recognize this can be anxiety-inducing, you're in a public server, possibly being publicly stupid. So yeah, you're being publicly confronted. And mods will always make sure that people aren't needlessly cruel or over-exaggerate what you've done, so any reaction you get is a consequence of your actions and your words. Sure, there's some sort of entertainment value, but if we wanted people harmed, they'd go onto the stage and be ridiculed in front of 100 of people, or directly be torn apart in the server. So, you know, I state this now because Dreamer will use this room existing to claim he was put in there in bad faith. We'll get there. Oh, and yes, my review of the video in general community activity was incendiary, and I admit as much, because that's what I was feeling at the moment. I, unlike Dreamer though, can put aside my anger and still speak to people civilly and get the full picture and see if my anger is warranted before I express it to them. So that's what I did here. Originally, it's Hive and Pumpkin who speak to him, though I soon didn't get to tap in. I have a very civil conversation with him where I express issues with his behavior and ask clarifying questions that Dreamer proceeds to answer. I pondered exactly where my issues lie with the earlier quote regarding Vlad's child and how I arrived at the conclusion I did, expressing that regardless of my conclusion, it was inappropriate to bring up Vlad's child at all. I even sympathized with Dreamer and expressed that I understand the concern, but that a public video was not the place to express such. And then when Dreamer talks about making a video to be person to person, I express that's not what a public video is for. That's usually for attention, clout, or cool out, and I directly state Dreamer could have gone to speak with Vlad one-on-one. I end the conversation expressing concern because Dreamer directly states he's no longer in blissed solitude, and I give him the advice that making videos targeting content creators that are likely to respond and have little to no care over mental health isn't particularly smart, and that if he doesn't like the attention, he shouldn't generate it. Dreamer proceeds to give us a bit of a sob story as context, and the conversation remains between Pumpkin and Hive. After this, I felt that intentions were clarified and we were good. I even downright reassured Dreamer and tell people not to harass him. Now yes, the Outback has people able to watch the conversation going on. However, I nor Lio control the conclusion people come to based on the conversations there. Dreamer will however hold me sending a job application meme and they're against me as if somehow that disproved my shown civility, which, I mean, I guess. Dreamer will later blame me for tainting his image in the server, but frankly, if you make a public video, someone else would have discovered it at some point. Someone else would have brought it into the server. That's how drama spaces work, and I thought the tame conversation we had was not that much of a deal. You made a public video, Dreamer. You joined CatSlayer, a server that focuses primarily on commentary drama, and you thought nobody would ever have found that video or found out you made it? I'm sorry, but that's just not realistic. I'm not to blame for the impression you left on the server based on your words and actions, and I understand that being in the Outback was nerve-wracking, but nobody put you there to hurt you. No one wanted to point and laugh at you. You were put there for a chance to clarify your intentions, you did so, and everything people felt after that neither of us had control over. And to expect your actions to be confronted privately when you confronted other people's actions publicly is hypocritical at best and fucking entitled at worst.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Whoa, what took you so long, idiot?
Despite the calm exchange on the 24th of March, I woke up to a massive manifesto in my DMs. As you can see, some of the screenshots here are censored because Dreamer asked me to leave out a specific part of his trauma dump, and I'm not heartless, so I obliged. If I missed any, I'm sorry, I tried my best to check for everything. Dreamer calls me disrespectful, actively compares me to his abuser by telling me I made him relive his trauma, and he also flat out tells me he blames me for his inability to make friends and fit in because I made him a monkey in the zoo. As a reminder, I had no control over Dreamer being put in the Outback and never requested him to be put there. In fact, I never even directly tagged him. That was other people. He also claims I changed his name to Barbie, something he'll take massive offense to moving forward, and claims that violated his consent in the coming months. He also goes on about how he wanted me to not publicly come at him after making a public video, and how I proved him guilty and took his chance to make a good impression from him. Ironically, he took that from himself, coming in guns a-blazing in order to confront Lio, something that, going to be for real, makes people laugh more than anything, so it's not like I tore it down much more. In fact, if anything, Dreamer tore it down more himself in the way he replied within the Outback in his manifesto within my DMs. The conversation continues with blame towards me for sharing the video and him not getting a chance to explain himself when he did. At this point, I shared his messages to a group chat of my friends for feedback, not for gossip, but because I was genuinely concerned I had messed up in the previous day in the way I've spoken to Dreamer, and I was heartbroken at the idea that I brought harm for someone I just wanted to help, which led to something I did not anticipate. Two of my friends went into CatSlayer into a chat called Monstrous's Thunderdome and started going at Dreamer without me ever asking them to, because guess what? At the time, I was at work and did in fact not pay consistent attention to the server. The conversation happens in a tone I personally don't condone, but I am going to pull all of it on screen and highlight specific parts. Banter goes at Dreamer pretty harshly, again in a way I don't condone, describes them as an abuser and points out they're essentially being awful. This leads to Dreamer in doubling down and tripling down, such as him playing the "my trauma is worse than your trauma" card and actively trauma dumping to make a point, which is a move, but it highlights a pattern we spoke about earlier, which Dreamer loves to trauma dump to make a point or win a fight, because he treats his trauma like an argument, an object, and not like something that debilitates his life. He treats it like a tool to whip out whenever he wants to dodge accountability or have people leave him alone. He also ironically doubles down on saying I made him relive his trauma and justifies it further. In his message where he asked me not to talk about this trauma, he even recontextualizes this and attempts to say I was making him relive the trauma from his friends and not the thing it actually was, which I plainly disagree with. This entire conversation goes on for a while, where it's pointed out to Dreamer that he's exhibiting abusive behavior and owes me an apology, that safe space doesn't mean trauma dump on anyone you want, and that his trauma isn't an excuse for the way he acts, and his trauma dumping isn't going to make people want to be friends with him. It's a messy, cruel conversation that I wish I could have caught earlier and stopped, but I was late to the party. Despite that, I end the convo disavowing Looney and banter entirely. After this conversation, I received a one-sentence apology, which you can see on screen. Whilst there's a lot to be said here, such as the apology only coming my way after Dreamer being essentially being bullied into it, and coming right after the obligation for defending Dreamer being put on me immediately, there's one thing that kills me the most. As you can see, the apology is one sentence long, directed at the main person Dreamer hurt and upset. Meanwhile, Lio motherfucking Convoy received a multiple paragraph apology despite not even being aware of this tussle occurring, to the point he had to ask me what happened the next day. Here's the apology in dramatic reading.
I tried fitting myself into your server, but all I did was create a mess for you, and I'm truly sorry I did that to you. I just don't think I can fit into a community, not just yours, but anyone's. I should have removed the video after we talked. I don't think it would have become a problem again. I just left it there, I forgot about it. I wasn't ready for criticism then, and I wasn't ready for criticism now. I completely fucked up when I messaged Hidden. By trying to get her to understand my thought process, I overshared and burdened her with my trauma. It only pissed off more people, and we started to fight publicly. It just hurt a lot to see people not believe me and take what I said the worst possible way. I'm being honest when I said someone pretended to be me to say awful things. I didn't want children to be hurt, and I would never imply Vlad would hurt his children. I wanted him to understand that we should teach kids empathy and not think everyone has malicious intent, but I didn't word correctly. And I think Vlad lied to me, or there was some YouTube issue, but I don't know what to believe. I was wondering where you were until I saw your post, and it just makes me even more sick of myself. While you were grieving, I was causing trouble. I'm sorry. I'm making this an even worse time for you. When I criticized you for hanging out with the others, it wasn't because I didn't like you. I know you've been betrayed a lot in your life. I didn't want you to become bitter about the world. I didn't want you to see me with the same disgust as they do. A lot of this was self-destructive on my end. For the first time in my life, I have a good living experience, which made me look outward for things to fix. But it was based on delusions of grandeur. There's so many people like me that's been hurt by this drama chasing, Kiwi forums and adjacent content. A lot of people like me live in fear to be ourselves. We can't even express ourselves online anymore when that was supposed to be our safe haven. But maybe I'm in the minority that can't find that. I was projecting a lot of my self-hatred onto this. It wasn't fair for me to pin that on you or your community. I wanted to try and fight it, teach people to grow and chill out from the Clout online popularity blinds us with. All I did was fall into that trap too. I won't try to join the Discord again. Even if I did, it's clear no one wants me there anymore. I don't want to cause you more stress than I already gave you. I'm sorry, I'm another person that let you down.
It's filled with excuses and the idea that Lio too was supposed to help Dreamer even though he was absent due to a personal loss in the family. More excuses for his behavior, and ends on a note of emotional manipulation, begging Lio to tell him that he was wanted in the Discord and apologizing for letting Lio down, despite them barely interacting and Lio not even being present when the altercation in his server occurred. But aside from that, it is so strange to me that Lio gets multiple paragraphs of apologies for something he wasn't even a part of or knew was occurring, yet I, the person Dreamer actively was a piece of shit to and put obligations onto, got a sentence. Really shows you the sincerity of that apology.
Wash your hands! Never!
On the 3rd of April 2025, Dreamer makes another return to Catslayer. It's relatively short-lived, with him being stopped at the entryway and being questioned by staff immediately. They ask why he'd want to return to a space that he's assuming dislikes him, based on the messages he sent to me, and he answers with the usual, wanting to socialize, feeling the server was safer than other spaces, and wanting to get people back on his side. And, for some reason, accusing us of breaking him with social pressure. This leads to him being booted from the server once and for all. Ironically, behind the scenes, I can't win of him joining and actually advocated for him to be let in. You know, being good faith and wanting to give him the chance to change, to no avail. A day later, on the 4th of April, Dreamer releases his infamous declaring war on the ACC community post, and I'm so mad I didn't screenshot it. I didn't think I'd have to, but here we are, LMFAO. I have a small screenshot where you can see his declaration at the end, and I'll include a few replies from his side and my side as well. It goes the way you'd expect, the usual passing the blame onto me for the video being discovered, whining about being the victim of a checks note, civil conversation in the server, and accusing me of wanting to ridicule him publicly. He also accuses me of sharing my DMs, which I explained earlier, and gets mad that I shared this entire situation with Akumu, who apparently made an appearance on this thing too. This leads to me eventually asking him to friend me so we can have a conversation, which he does, and the conversation doesn't make them look too good. It's the same narrative, me ganging up on him, punishing him, saying my impression of his video was incorrect, complaining about my friends coming at him with no repercussions, intentions. I point out to him that so far I've been entirely protective of him, consistently advocating for him and disavowing the way he's been treated by people in my circle and in CatSlayer. And here we see just how entitled Dreamer is. He expects people to reach out to him and apologize to him, expects to be welcomed back, and how he expects me to stand up for him. I point out how he was willing to weaponize his platform, however small it was, towards me, and how I was, according to him, obligated to show him I defended him. I directly point out this threat to him, and at this point, I'll admit, I lost my cool. He also brings up the point I talked about earlier, that a watch room under the Outback implies that he was never put in there with good intentions, as if the entire conversation in there wasn't for him to clarify his intentions and allow him to speak his piece in an insanely civil conversation. He tries to conflate me with Banter, who told him to game end himself, and I point out that was me. He reiterates how he was entitled to me defending him and how I have no compassion and how he's owed explanations, and again, we go into his martyrdom of how he's not going for revenge, ironic, isn't it? And how he wants to stop the social cancer of gossip.
So did any of you have a summer job when you were growing up?
Just one normal breakfast, that's all I want.
Whilst all this was happening, I was actively sharing both my responses on YouTube and my DMs with this guy into CatSlayer. Yeah, I'll admit that was probably stirring shit, but this was getting ridiculous. This led to Lio, out of all people, asking me to pull Dreamer into Guac, a server or a group chat. I refused, given I didn't see much merit in it, Lio saying a group chat means more people to point out Dreamer's being dumb, me joking he supports group bullying, which all led to Lio just making the group chat. I added Pumpkin eventually, the mod that put Dreamer into the Outback, given that Dreamer probably had questions regarding this. The conversation runs in text at first, with the same points. Me being out to get him, wanting to ridicule him, blaming me again for pointing out what he was saying within the video he released, and admitting I had to earn my compassion from him because he assumed I was undeserving of it, for allegedly putting him in a quarantined part of a server for a conversation. Wild take. He goes at Pumpkin about being influenced by Vlad or being his mod. Neither is true, and just an assumption he runs with for no particular reason other than assuming it's discrediting Pumpkin. Cool. He goes on saying how he didn't get to civilly explain himself, and I am begging you to remember the way I spoke to him up to this point, especially in CatSlayer. The way he's framing this like he was screamed at for 3 hours straight is literally clinically insane to me. He then apologizes again, yippee, the bare minimum, and contradicts himself immediately about not blaming me for everything, and I don't know how much harder I can gesture to every message he sent me so far, including the actual group chat itself. At this point, this is less about wanting an apology and more about him actually admitting he's wrong. His apology means nothing if he keeps making excuses or but explains his behavior away, because saying sorry is an admission of doing something wrong, which at this point I didn't feel like Dreamer was able to, or rather willing to admit to. And eventually, we finally have a call. This call is almost 2 hours in length, and it's half an hour of me being genuinely concerned for Dreamer and trying to give him advice. I'm not going to play the entire call, and I'm not going to be releasing the full thing anywhere either, for a simple reason. Dreamer has been going around behind the scenes, giving people a very specific part of another call with him to frame things way worse than they were. We'll get there. And is refusing to release the full call. He's also gotten so fucking mad that I recorded this call that I simply don't want to give him the pleasure of releasing it. That, and again, I'm a bleeding heart. Dreamer genuinely is emotionally vulnerable in this call to the point of almost crying, and I'm not going to broadcast that to the world for a gotcha. So I'll simply go through the most important parts of this and play parts that I think matter. The first 30 minutes of the call is me recapping the situation, eventually touching upon how Dreamer can't force his morals and values in people, and how he's not going to make people change because people have their own ideals and morality, and how him seeking attention the way he has is only going to hurt him. Here's a short clip of that. That was certainly a choice. But yeah, like, the reason that you weren't necessarily met with the best reaction is when people were pushing you, you immediately started self-victimizing again and blaming yourself, blaming other people again, which showed us that you had not learned from what we were, trying to impart on you. It wasn't just me. Lio was trying to give you good advice. I was trying to give you good advice. I'm pretty sure a few other people in the server were giving you advice, and you ignored that and came in, again, with the attitude of, I am the person that's hurt. I'm the person that, was wronged here, and I'm the person who's entitled.
That's not my intention.
Okay, then what was your intention?
Hold on. How can that not be your intention? That's not even subtext. That's just the text. You made everything literally about you, about how people didn't defend you, about how people didn't rally around you, about how you were affected, about how you were put in something that's goofy as Outback. What do you mean that wasn't your intention?
I don't know. I'm just trying to explain myself in the best way I can. And when I came back, I didn't want to be the victim or anything. I just wanted somewhere to go. Somewhere I could feel safe from everything that's happening. And it was just the Outback thing I did not expect. I did not think it would happen. I thought Lyle would talk to you about this, or why I was there. And I was called Barbie, and that left me more upset, and that made me more anxious. And the only person that I knew to talk to was you. And I'm sorry that I put all that shit onto you. I just had no one else to talk to. I felt like I was being shutted out from the entire server after a week of trying to fit in. And then suddenly, I don't know why, that my video gets brought up. And then I have people saying that I'm a liar, that I say I want, like, that I think Vlad's bad father, or I want kids to be hurt, all this bad stuff. And the video, like my message of my video about like civility, empathy, all that, just not talked about. Just only certain things talked about it. And the main point I was trying to get across, no one is listening to at all.
Well, I'm gonna be for real, that's the unfortunate reality of being a content creator. And there's a part of me that understands why you chose to be public with the video, but a way bigger part of me doesn't understand it all, because you end the video talking about how you no longer have the solitude you previously had, the one you appreciated and wanted. And it's very clear, and I don't mean this derogatory, that you do not know how to handle the heat when it comes your way. Because it ends with you being defensive, it ends with you, victimizing yourself, it ends with you either intentionally or unintentionally manipulating people, and you, in the kindest way I can say it, are not made for this kind of sphere. And so it's even weirder to me when I see messages from you, or, community posts, where you talk about humbly declaring war on the commentary community. And I also heard your call with Lio, where, Lio imparts on you that it's not your job to fix the commentary community, because you can't. There's people who are not going to listen to you. There's people who are not going to care. And, great example is, Muffin. Muffin could not care less about anything you have to say. But Muffin has the capability to be empathetic. They just choose to be very particular with who gets the empathy. I'm a dumbass who's empathetic towards everybody, because I would like to have that empathy for myself, but more often than not, I do not get that. But that's also a decision I make for myself, based on my morals and my ethics. Much like you have your decision made on your morals and your ethics, but you do not get to force those on the rest of the community just because you think they're right. People like Beckett are not going to magically start caring. People like Vlad are not going to magically stop using words just because you make a video. Akula is not going to magically not call you the arse slur when he hears about something to bring up. And you're putting unnecessary stress on yourself by forcing yourself in these situations, and then ending up surprised when people slap back harder than you would like them to. And I'm impartial, a part of me is incredibly worried for you, because I can tell you're anxious, and I can tell you're defensive, and I can tell you're hurt, and I can tell that you just really want the place where you belong, but you self-sabotage by putting yourself in a situation you cannot handle and ending up hurting people in the process. You hurt people like me, you hurt people like Lio, you hurt people like, I don't think you hurt Muffin, but basically us. There's people whether you intended to or not, hurt, even though we were trying to help. And I gave you that advice the first time you went out back, where I told you, if you do not want the negative attention, then do not put yourself in the spotlight where you can get it. But you've been doing that. Even the community post you made, you tagged Akulu, you tagged Lio, you tagged Vlad, I think, and you tagged Cope and Seeth. That makes people see that. That makes people react to that. That makes people make fun of you. And it ends in situations like this, for example, where Lio puts that, that community post into the server, and I see it, and, I comment because I want to write the narrative that's being written there, and it ends up with other people coming to your post, and that makes you more defensive, and it makes you more anxious, and it leads to the whole cycle starting from you again, where you are going to be manipulative again. And that's a problem, because that makes people like me, people who were originally on your side, not want to be on your side anymore. Because now I feel like you've used me. And now I feel awful because you blamed me for literally everything that happened to you, despite me not being at fault. And I feel bad because you felt entitled to me defending you. And you felt entitled to my compassion and my patience and my grace, when you're really, really not. The most, that's what I personally think, is the most you're entitled to is civility. I can be civil with you. That's the most I owe you. But even that, I wouldn't owe you.
Blame you for all this. I don't blame you for all this. I don't.
But you say you blame my group.
The group, not your group, the group you're a part of. Lio's group. What, actually even wider than that. The bigger picture.
Dreamer goes into his martyrdom again, talking about how he wants to make the internet a safe space. I push back, letting him know that's not his responsibility. It's each their own responsibility to create a space they feel safe in. I push hard that it's his responsibility only to take care of him first and foremost, before anyone else. He puts on a light Yagami expression saying how the world is negative. I push back, letting him know that he should simply find more positive things to look at. Now, people have a funny habit of saying I forced Dreamer to take down his community post in the Hypocrites video. Here's the segment of the call where he takes it down himself after a conversation, roughly 30 minutes into the call. Ironically, I say I wouldn't make a commentary video out of this, which, look at me now, Dreamer. I can't believe you forced my hand.
So, I want to make it clear, because I know people get anxious. I don't hate you. I'm not going to turn this into a massive thing. I'm not going to make 7 commentary videos on you and point a finger at you and talk about how terrible you are. I was miffed. I could say that. I was annoyed even. At some points I was angry and maybe a little, hurt. But that's something just... Yeah, I'm sure you first do. I'm sure you felt the same. So it's not that I'm scared and I'm coping and seething and I want the worst for you. I want you to find a way to cope healthily with the emotions you have and the anxieties you clearly struggle with. And that might have to be away from Lio's space, but I'm sure there's another space that would happily welcome you with open arms.
I just gotta find it in the way of all that. I just gotta try to find it.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. And it might take a while, but it'll be worth it in the end. So, that's literally all I hope for you, is that you're able to grow from this and, recognize where missteps happened and how to fix them going forward. And that you just find a group or a Discord server or literally anything that, you can feel comfortable around.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. YouTube Studio is really weird to check. Okay. I'll take that.
else.
Fantastic. I think that's a good first step in the right direction. But yeah, like that is quite literally all I had to, like, for you. I'm not gonna keep you here much longer and, like, repeat my points. Unless there's, like, something I wants to say or something you want to say. I think I might be out of here. Not only that, but Dreamer admits in his apology to Lio that he should have taken down the video earlier. So no, he wasn't strong-armed into taking it down. He recognized it shouldn't stay up because it was going to make things worse for him. Look at this. This is where I genuinely felt like Dreamer understood my points and concerns, which culminated in him, of his own volition, taking down the video by privating it and deleting his community post. And this entire thing was solved in 30 minutes and 35 seconds. At least for me. The other 1.5 hours are Lio's and to an extent mine, because I give Lio a chance to speak, given at this point this had, repeatedly now, affected his space too. Lio was a lot more stern than I was. Lio didn't believe Dreamer the way I did and had severe doubts about Dreamer actually understanding what I told him. He details being sick and tired of this happening over and over again, and actually crashes out a few times, and he even details the reason. Lio being taken advantage of has become a genuine trigger for him, especially after the whole Hopeless Peaches fiasco, and in his eyes, that's just what Dreamer did after Lio had a calm call with him when he joined and offered his server as a space for Dreamer. Dreamer compares Jar being similar to Akumo in his cancellation, references the FCK, and then brings up doodle tones. He also details Barbie being the worst thing that one could ever be nicknamed, and this causes Lio to bring someone else into call, Weebus, previously seen as Dap 13 in a few screenshots, to prove there's worse things somebody can be called. The rest of the call is them ridiculing Dreamer and his actions, along with calling into question the validity of his motives. At the 1 hour and 30 minutes mark, I snap at Dreamer. He brings up how he sacrifices his mental health for us people to help the internet, and I couldn't fucking stand it. I tell him that the people actually sacrificing something are me, Lio, and whoever else deals with him by repeatedly being kind, when he steps us in the back and twists our neck the way he twists the retelling of the story, and how he puts more effort into being sorry to Gilded than to me, how appalled I am by just how self-centered he's been for the last hour after my segment with him, and how absurd he is for expecting to be defended, and how his martyrdom of saving the internet is weird. I yelled, I'll admit, but I do end up walking back on the yell and apologizing to him. This call ends with Lio giving him stern pointers of what he should actually do, which is enjoy his real life and socialize there, because socializing online clearly isn't beneficial to him. The call ends here. After this, it's silence. It seems that Dreamer went his way, having taken down his video and enjoying his life elsewhere, until he comes the fuck back. Holy fucking shit. Why? On the 23rd of June, he returns with a multitude of things. For once, he tags me, Lio, Vlad, and Akumu directly in the video. And guess what it's about? Correct. The impersonation. And unironically, finally, it's got actual proof. It took almost 1.5 years for this guy to deliver proof for the one impersonation that actually occurred. And I'll be for real, I did not care. I ignored the tag, I moved on with my day. Until I couldn't. Because I realized that he had also put this video in the group chat that me and Lio had made to speak to him. Again, screenshots on screen, specific parts censored because Dreamer asked them to be censored. And all hell breaks loose. Everyone in the group chat is immediately hostile for a multitude of reasons. Mostly being that he was asked to stay away from us, but also that in the grand scheme of things, up to this point, his impersonation did not matter anymore. And even if his claims are true, it changed nothing. And we express as much to him. Everyone mostly goes into how no one cares about the impersonation, how no one wanted him to come back, and this is where things really kick off, because this is Dreamer explaining that he is the victim and actually he's the one being harassed after 3 months of people forgetting he even existed. God fucking damn it. I'll admit the tone in this conversation wasn't civil or kind, and frankly, it didn't need to be. While I disavow of people making fun of his trauma, hence me not doing it, everyone, including me, was so fucking fed up with this guy and his perpetual victimhood, so no one was taking him seriously and consistently poking at him. Ironically, this group chat also has his first admittance of remaining obsessed with me ever after I read out the comment of his possible impersonator a year ago. We'll get there. This leads to a very infamous call that lasted an hour. A call that Dreamer recorded and refuses to release because he's weaponizing a very specific part of it. Most of the call is us reiterating that he shouldn't rely on us to validate him, that the impersonation doesn't matter, and that he needs to let go of this parasocial attachment to the story. It also goes into him, how he should get a job, and this is the important part, pay attention now. Lio asks Dreamer what his plan is once his parents are gone, since he seems so unable to handle himself. Dreamer, unprompted, states his plan is to game into himself since he's only still alive for his family. Lio then answers, why wait? Dreamer will go on to take this part of the conversation and run around saying Lio told him to, you know, jump off a bridge in Minecraft. This is in fact not what Lio is doing. Lio is calling his bluff and saying that if he did want to shrimp himself, why would he wait until his parents are gone? Saying he doesn't actually want to do it because he's a coward. Now later on, Lio absolutely directly asks Dreamer to tie a knot around his neck and seal the deal, but not only do I disavow this and actually call Lio cringe for it, expressing this kind of language makes him look like a 12-year-old in a COD lobby, and it also gives people an easy out because they'd rather focus on him saying deliver a handshake to God personally than his actual point. It didn't actively happen here, and Dreamer misframing it is again a pattern and a choice, I guess. Anywho, while this line of questioning to call a bluff is a little wild, the fact that Dreamer will use this to frame Lio as more malicious than he was to victimize himself is really interesting. Again, Dreamer, if you're not a coward, release the full call. But you won't. I know you won't, because your little narrative won't work anymore. In hindsight, frankly, we shouldn't have had this call and probably just blocked the guy and moved on. This was a colossal waste of everyone's time, because all it was Dreamer playing the victim more over a part of the story that's nothing more but a side quest at this point. In double hindsight, Dreamer also should have just left us the fuck alone, and he has the ability to press the leave call button after he noticed we weren't falling for his schemes nor willing to validate him. So we all fucked up here. Oops, I guess. But at the same time, I don't understand why a situation from over a year ago occupies him so much that he just had to return to it and prove his innocence, when what he said in his actual video was way worse than what the impersonator stated. And the fact that he didn't lead with the evidence he very clearly was able to get, instead of spending his time with no evidence and trust me bros, is just fucking wild. But whatever, it's only going down from here. So this is the part that led to this entire thing becoming public. On the 27th of June, there was a fight in GlassRaven's server after Lio discovered Dreamer was within it. It starts with Dreamer tagging Lio directly and calling him abusive. This leads to the, and I hesitate calling it that, debate on GlassRaven's channel. The infamous RoSA 2.0 call. And I'm going to be for real, I don't care to go over it. Frankly, this debate shouldn't even have happened, and that's for a multitude of reasons. One, it's very clear that Raven and Class, except for possibly Yen, all had no clue in regards to the history of this person and barely had done any research, gathered evidence, or had any information on this person. 2, it was moderated very well. And 3, it led to nothing and was a huge nothing burger. And it wasn't necessary. Holy shit, I get it. Lio makes easy clout and content, but this situation was so fucking minuscule, especially in the grand scheme of things, that it didn't need to be public in this way at all. If anything, this made the entire thing worse because everyone picked the situation up and nobody did any research into how we got here and blew this entire thing so far out of proportion. And this isn't solely something I put blame on Raven for. I put blame on everybody here. Lio shouldn't have felt the need to beat a dead horse on stream after Dreamer had gotten his ass beaten repeatedly already. Raven shouldn't have felt the need to monetize this into content, and the jury shouldn't have just sat there watching this for the teehees. Dreamer shouldn't have been on the stream or engaged with it publicly. This entire thing was ridiculously overblown, and I have a hard time understanding why. I think, personally, and this is directed at Raven, just because it gives you views, it doesn't mean it has to be online. You had no clue who Dreamer was and what he did. You had no clue of the history between Lio, me, and Dreamer. The reply to Lio coming to you and saying, "Can I poke at him in your server?" should have been, "No, keep your beef out of here," and not, "Let's have a 3-hour, barely mediated and completely unnecessary stream." I understand you view this as entertaining and probably assumed Lio being a presence on your channel is a nice little view boost, but this was, in my opinion, not the move to make. And frankly, at the Lio haters, y'all shouldn't have picked this up to cover as the RoSA Call 2.0, when y'all didn't even bother to do any research at all, and some of y'all, hi Malcolm, took someone else's third-party assumptions as fact in order to go over this. This was a massive nothing burger, and while I appreciate clowns embarrassing themselves, this is not the way it needed to happen. This stream goes over the same things we've been skimming over this entire time. The trauma dumping, the victimization, the weird massive upset at being called Barbie, calling Lio abusive, throwing claims at Lio he found online from other content creators, we'll get there when we'll get there, claiming Lio abused a child, spoiler, the person was neither abused nor a child, the impersonation. I really don't feel like touching this all again, because frankly, it's been covered by other people, and I'm not here to dissect something I've repeatedly dissected before. This call isn't the RoSA call. You know why? Because Dreamer brought himself here. He repeatedly joined spaces he knew he wasn't welcomed in anymore after his actions. He threw himself at people he knew wanted nothing to do with him, victim, and he tagged Lio specifically in order to make the claim he was abusive, and was surprised when Lio clapped back. This guy isn't as in need of care as RoSA was, and he's very aware of what he's doing and how it's going to affect people. He's vitriolic, angry, and manipulative, and he keeps repeatedly showing it. The RoSA call was fucked up. We know. We've been known, but this is not the RoSA call. This is Dreamer smashing headfirst into someone's window and screaming, "Pay attention to me, I'm a victim!" and being surprised Pikachu face when it doesn't work out in his favor. Feel free to criticize the language used with Dreamer in the debate, or the debate as a whole, but don't equate it to something it was marginally less worse than, in order to scream a buzzword you know nothing about, especially when you don't even do your research into how we got here. Thanks, this has been my TED Talk. After this, Dreamer got, for lack of better words, his ass beat in Raven's server. People didn't take too kindly to his actions and his behavior. There's the usual of Dreamer claiming harassment in public and detailing his reasons for his inability to find a job, along with me pointing out that he is the victim of his choices and him actually admitting that he did compare me to his abuser, and him trying to make me out to be the villain because I was so mean after he explained his fifis to me. It's also interesting because we see him immediately switching to being polite and nice when someone shows an iota of kindness to him, and him begging not to have unnecessary stress put on somebody and himself after he actively put himself and the person he's supposedly defending into the limelight again and basically begged for attention from Lio and Les Raven's entire audience. For context, you'll see on stream that in the stream, Dreamer claimed Lio bullied a child but refuses to give the actual name of the person. Lio eventually figures out who it is, and it's proven that this person was a whole ass adult that Lio only prodded at for being dumb online. Again, Dreamer just runs with a narrative without ever fact-checking and screams life-ruining allegations into public spaces like they're dollar bills in a strip club, and then Dreamer whines about me being disrespectful. You know, right after claiming Lio was abusive with zero evidence and getting the entire story wrong. Hey, but hey, you know, whatever. Dreamer tells us he's getting overwhelmed, and I suggest he leaves, to which Dreamer accuses me of pushing him out of spaces. Dramatic much? The discussion regarding the sexual harassment claim towards Pumpkin is also brought up, where everyone arrives at the consensus that it wasn't in fact sexual harassment, and at most vulgar language used towards Dreamer, and Pumpkin owns up to making Dreamer uncomfortable and agrees not to use that language towards him moving forward. He also makes a point to defend Susie for some reason, despite Susie having been just outed as an awful person, along with defending Bea, the person he claimed was a child, and that being disproven immediately, along with backpedaling when saying Lio was abusive to her, into asking Lio to give her more grace than usual because she's autistic. Again, I'm making a point that the discussion after the stream in the server was moderated just as poorly, because staff suddenly asked everyone to drop the topic, as if Dreamer hadn't just been monetized for Clout, because the conversation was getting heated. Frankly, I don't think Raven Space is made for debates and rough conversations like these, and it doesn't have to be, but I think if you invite fire into the forest, you gotta be able to control burning trees, and I didn't see that happen here. I don't think Raven or staff is awful for this, but if anything, this should have been a learning experience on when to engage and when to disengage and to simply remove somebody. After this, A-Space, a fellow content creator, offers the server to talk, and boy, does it get worse.
You're fucking paranoid, you are fucking, you bloody.
The conversation in Ace's server goes from being formally kept at bay to just fully unhinged. This section is going to be long, so strap in and enjoy me yapping. This is also where Dreamer will make grooming and abuse allegations with no proof whatsoever, so please pay attention. We start out with a conversation about Bea, the quote-unquote child that Lio supposedly abused. Lio reveals that 1, abuse never occurred, and 2, the person wasn't even a child. When Lio points out that Dreamer drops the victim act around people that aren't receptive to it, Dreamer backpedals and calls it not taking us seriously, and then proceeds to whine about how he doesn't want to be used for content. Ironic, isn't it, given that he turned everything that happened to him ever into immediate content with no evidence? But okay. Dreamer proceeds to make a really unhinged comment that Lio should adopt me to keep me safe, after Lio points out that Dreamer tends to prey on females more. Dreamer also quadruples down on calling Lio an abuser again, and claims Lio is abusive to everyone that he ever fights with, only to have it pointed out again that he claimed abuse but ended up being entirely objectively wrong about it. His obsession with me specifically shines through again when I question him on why he cares so much about me believing him, and he admits that he's been holding on to thinking about me for over a year because I was the one reading out the stupid troll comments, so he's been obsessed with getting me to believe him. Help me. I am in hell. Whatever. Anyway, Dreamer doesn't elaborate why me believing him matters so much, instead getting distracted with Lio, claiming he was more mature than Lio, which Okay, sure. After a petty back and forth, he quintuples down on claiming Lio abused Bea after it being objectively proven that Bea wasn't a child and wasn't abused, and he says it's because she couldn't fight back because autism, I guess. Dreamer goes on about not wanting to control anyone, despite, trying to control me about not speaking about his video, not talking to him publicly, demanding I protect and defend him publicly, demanding I show him me defending him. Do I really need to go on? And he ends with, all I wanted was to explain myself, after calling Lio an abuser, calling me an abuser, and whining about Pumpkin being a sexual harasser. But hey, who's counting? Dreamer continues this line of logic with telling me to find a job is ableist because I'm disabled, which, okay, I mean, I guess. You weren't told to find a job because you're disabled though, you were told to find one because you're acting unemployed and not in the fun way. After more back and forth, it doesn't matter, Dreamer finally returns to his martyrdom of I want a better internet, which he's doing a horrendous job at cultivating with his funny false allegations and his genuine inability to hold himself accountable, but potatoes. Dreamer also tries to make a jab at Lio that he's in places that end up infested with child predators, which is certainly a take. He also makes a really uncreative jab in regards to the Jax call, which points for an attempt, I guess, and moves on about blabbing about how he wants to socialize and wanting to make content that's so much better than the blood sports occurring, but okay. Sure. I point out his content isn't that different. He argues it is because it's more interpersonal, whatever that's supposed to mean. I point out that his frequent misuse of serious allegations such as abuse and sexual harassment means that nobody's really going to take him seriously at all. Dreamer accuses Lio of abuse again, and finally we ring up Sai and Lio's grievances with the lady. Lio talks about Sai reading Stockholm, literal written CP, to make fun of it, to which Dreamer replies that it's not that serious. Lio's pressing Dreamer to explain how reading CP for fun and giving a child access to porn is okay. Dreamer says it's fine because it's ridiculing a sick fetish, which again, I'm just not gonna touch it because what a take. When pressed to ask Sai why she doesn't age-gate the discussion around Lily, Dreamer deflects and just brings up Caitlyn Coy for no particular reason. Okay. They argue back and forth again, and Dreamer calls Lio abusive over saying that Sai reading Stockholm to laugh at is weird, and Lio points out there's no evidence for Caitlyn being a groomer. Dreamer brings up Jesus dying for our sins. I'm not kidding, I wish I was. And Dreamer brings up his new favorite word, Davo. He's asked to define abuser, which he does, and his definition is almost childlike and very lacking. Ace points out that Lio doesn't even fit this definition, and Dreamer retorts saying Lio did mentally hurt people. Dreamer asks Lio if he has BPD. Classic, you care so much for mental health that you'll throw out these things like an insult, and then excuses it by saying he can't make sense of Lio's behavior other than him having BPD. Okay? They argue again about Dreamer downplaying Sai reading Stockholm, and the accusation of Lio abusing children comes up again, where Dreamer doubles down. Again, it's pointed out that his take regarding BPD is wild, and he calls it a spur-of-the-moment thing. I too am ableist in the spur of a moment. It is my favorite. He accuses Lio of never apologizing, despite Lio having apologized repeatedly for his behavior on multiple occasions. He also accuses Lio of abuse again, and insinuates there's more children Lio abused with absolutely no proof. Classy. He doubles down, saying he knows Lio abuses more kids, saying that's what Lio did before he became popular. Even more classy. When asked for evidence, it gets pointed out again that Bea wasn't a child, and Dreamer then says his proof for abuse was Jax, and that Lio is ignoring it. Dreamer whines about being called a liar after it was proven he lied, and Jax comes in confirming Lio had never abused him. Sly, we love speaking over victims, so classy. I point out my civil discussion with him and his downright disgusting behavior afterwards. He calls the call nice, and then accuses me of changing my personality when Lio spoke. I point out that was because it became clear to me that he hadn't internalized anything of what I had said, and that made me mad, so I snapped at him. Dreamer walks back and says the call was Lio justifying cruelty on a systematic level, which I don't even know how he got that from the call, but okay. I point out I simply tried looking out for him because he wasn't doing well in the limelight by his own admission. He then walks back on comparing me to his abuser again, and then accuses Lio of finding mentally ill people to groom, downright jumping to the grooming allegations. God bless the mentally ill, because the leap here was world record pace of a jump. There's a brief spat between Banter and Dreamer in between, and Dreamer is being pressed to actually name the people that Lio groomed. Dreamer distracts briefly with a tangent about Lolita, comparing Sai reading Stockholm to people reading Lolita, which are two works of fictions with entirely different motives of being written, but media literacy is dead. We finally go back to the grooming allegations, and brace yourself, Dreamer finally gives us a name. Aaron, aka Hopeless Motherfucking Peaches. I will never be free. And I snapped, I'll admit, because Peaches is Lio's abuser. Peaches is my abuser, and this insinuation is so fucking disgusting on multiple levels, along with just being blatantly incorrect. Dreamer becomes sassy, willing to ignore my abuse because I was mean to him, I guess, classy, and is pressed for evidence. He provides none, instead saying he was simply pushed too far and blaming the people in the conversation for making him make these takes. He immediately excuses his behavior as if he didn't just toss out a life-ruining allegations with no proof, and says it's completely fine because we called him a liar and a manipulator and he was told to meet God on the internet. He whines about him making grooming allegations being the center because it's just him reacting one time, so it's totes fine, guys. He's immediately called out for this not just being a reaction. He then doubles down on Lyle having groomed Aaron and the evidence being right there and brings out the cult allegation again, claiming Lyle invited Aaron into his home. Aaron never lived in his home. He also says Aaron couldn't have abused Lyle because they never lived together, which, holy shit, I hate this guy, but whatever. And Cecily remarks how Lyle should go offline and get therapy because that's a point we levied at him before. I point out Dreamer's empathy only extends to people that are gentle with him, and Dreamer high horses about how he's given me so much empathy, and how I just won't reflect on how I treat people. And wait, Dreamer, are you talking to a mirror? Because, you know, the conversation briefly shifts to how Dreamer was never empathetic towards me and was even actively cruel to me in regards to my abuse, not believing my story and misrepresenting me, and also just dropping his drama on me. He pulls the edgy, my empathy left and it's never coming back. I call him as consistent as his income. I briefly talk about how he wants a safer internet, yet takes every possible step to make the internet worse with his actions, being part of the problem. He tells me I only go after people when I have backup, which, okay, King. Goat Counter points out that he's disgusting for telling someone to just get over their abuse, and Dreamer ignores that to call me manipulative, how I was never kind to him, and that I am a backstabber. The mirror, Dreamer. Is it blinding you? Dreamer whines about being told to just get over it, to which Goat points out that that doesn't mean his actions are justified. It's further pointed out how ridiculous his behavior is, and Dreamer further tries to defend himself and generalizes people when there was only one person actively bringing up his trauma. Goat points out that Dreamer needs to log off and work on himself. Dreamer walks away from the conversation because now, finally, apparently we went over the line, I guess. It's further pointed out that that's a ridiculous statement to make after all he pulled, and the conversation ends here. Phew, what a conversation. I hope this never happens again. Glad to know Dreamer's response to anger is grooming allegations he can't substantiate. That's so normal.
Maybe I was wrong. Nah.
Short section coming up, and this is a little out of order, but bear with me. Dreamer was invited to one last call on the 27th of June in a server called the Glock Barrel, to which I too was invited. This call is 52 minutes long. It has multiple people in it, but namely me, Lyle, and Dreamer. This is a call Dreamer has agreed to and could have left at any time. He was not forced into this call. There is a recap of the entire situation again, but fun fact, Lyle is actually entirely calm throughout this call, and the only person that ends up yelling is me. The important part about this is Lyle directly confronting Dreamer, assuming he was being fed information from another camp, mainly assuming it was from Psy, and then going into the accusation of grooming that was being made. Here's the clip of Dreamer just straight up admitting that he made that claim because he was angry, and then instead of actually owning up to it or delivering an apology, talking about Lyle being an evil, awful person.
If I don't, just fucking curious about that, because you don't even know what disingenuous is. So you sit here and you want to play pretend, you're actually sorry about anything. So tell me, the whole you groom thing, was that something from you, or was that something from one of Psy's little Discord belongs?
I said it because I was angry.
That's not what I asked you.
About me.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you, oh, you, or if it was from one of them.
Me.
Okay, so you're just a vile human being then.
Are you looking at yourself right now?
No, I'm looking straight at the screen right now. We had told. Actually, I went over.
Find a mirror.
Am I gonna ask the man to change his ways?
Looking at the man in the mirror. God damn it, Lyle.
At least you got it.
But no, wait, you did.
What did I do? Because I didn't do anything wrong. I did nothing wrong.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. You want to know why I know I didn't? Because in the last call.
Thing wrong.
No, I'm not. Because the last call you and I had back in April. Because I just listened to it again today. I told you, stay out of my spaces, stay out of my communities, do not talk to me, and do not talk to the people in this call going forward. What did you do? What did you do on Monday?
I didn't talk to you.
What did you do on Monday? I told you not to contact us. What did you do on Monday? I told you Monday is not the 18th. The 18th is when you talked to what? Come on. Pay attention. Eyes up on the screen. You were making community posts that day. What happened Monday? Come on. He's the boy. What did you do on Monday?
I joined Vlad's server.
Monday, it was not the 18th. The 18th is when you joined Vlad's server. So let's try to time again. What is today? What's the date of today? Is it the 27th, Dreamer?
27th, yeah.
Okay, then what would Monday be?
The 23rd.
Yeah, you were in Vlad's server on the 18th. So no, I'm not talking about Vlad's server. What did you do on Monday?
Is that when you told me to kill myself that day?
What did you do?
Evidence?
Oh, there we go. What did you do to try to show us evidence? What did you do?
I posted a video.
And did what?
That's all I did.
No. What did you do in the video? What did you do in the description? Come on, be the boy. What did you do in the description?
I tagged you so you could see.
Yeah, you tagged us after we told you what? To not what? Contact us. To leave us alone.
There's a back and forth about Lio going to hell, and Lio himself actually touches upon the whole bit in the call that Dreamer clipped out of context, where he claims that Lio told him to kill himself. We also briefly talk about Dreamer's claims that I reminded him of his abuser, i.e. I made him relive the trauma, something we went over when we talked about the DMs he sent me. And when Dreamer realizes that he can't make excuses for this claim, he instead pivots to Lio doing the same abuse. Enjoy the clip.
Try this again. Why did you even think it was appropriate to tell the call that you plan on killing yourself once your dad's dead?
Because you asked me.
I asked you what your plan is. You think that's a plan?
Sir, can you mute really quick? There's a lot of background noise coming from you. Thank you.
Because here's what it reads to everybody else, including me, because I have, since you're going on about pattern recognition, here's your pattern. You get called out for being stupid, lazy, or foolish, you immediately trauma dump. You think it's an easy out because you did it to Hidden. Yesterday, you denied that you said that Hidden reminds you of your abuser is in her DMs. Black and white. You called her a liar.
I didn't call her abuser. I told her
that you did. She remind you that she reminded you of your abuser, which was the claim.
The abuse.
What abuse?
That you're doing right now.
The abuse of what? Telling you you're wrong?
You actually brought me my abuser.
And? I'm not them. Cope.
Dreamer quotes this abuse again, and when asked to elaborate, refuses to elaborate. He proceeds to literally threaten Lio, saying that, "If this gets out, you won't be able to change the way people see you. Enjoy."
Anyways, moving on. You don't know how to tell me what it is because you don't actually know. You're just hoping you can say it's abuse and that nobody else will look into it. They'll just take it at face value.
This is abuse.
How? Telling you you're wrong is abuse? How is it abuse?
Everything you've done is abuse.
How is it abuse? How? Tell me how.
Once this gets out, you're not going to be able to change.
Change what?
Change what people think of you after this.
Chief. If this gets out, especially by you, all they're going to do is point out that you're a little freak who likes to ignore what people say when they say no, and that every woman whose place you walk by at a bar or anywhere else instinctively cover their drinks.
Ironically, Dreamer kind of has a point because none of you people covering this situation actually looked into this guy before you ran defense for him. He's not some troll or some sweet abused victim. He's a guy who actively threw out life-ruining allegations with no proof repeatedly, who thinks reading CP and sharing access to it is not a big deal. Someone who will call another person a groomer out of anger and almost narcissistically makes themselves the victim every time. And yet, some of you still welcome him, and I cannot fathom why. Moving on, Dreamer then claims abuse again, and when pushed for evidence again, ignores it and just goes, "You know why this is abuse." Lio then turns around and actually lets Dreamer know that he's the emotional abuser. Dreamer, instead of giving us evidence, reads out the definition of Darvo as if that proves anything, and I'll spare you the entire reading section. Here you go.
And more to the point, that just proves that every single thing you say when you say you have apologies, you didn't mean it, you're just like. So if you're just going to be a dickhead, at least I want
apologies for you.
Oh, so now you're not sorry that you called somebody a groomer without evidence. Interesting.
So well, I am sorry about that, but I'm not sorry for calling you an abuser because you are.
Yeah, that's why you have literally no evidence to point to that, but that's fine. Let's move on to something else here then. Why did you...
This is literally abuse.
Talking to you is abuse? How's abuse?
You know exactly what.
No, actually, I don't, and you've proven literally nothing, so let's go ahead and turn our head. You're abusing me. You're abusive. You weaponize your trauma and you weaponize your own sad pity party background. You weaponize your own life to try to get attention from people. You're an abuser. You are an emotional abuser.
Hold on. Sounds like all of Egypt.
Hold on.
I'm gonna read something.
Go ahead.
Let me read it.
Go ahead. Make sure you cite the source. Put the link in the side chat.
Or just share your screen so you're not making up bullshit.
Oh no, he wants to protect whoever he's communicating with right now. It's fine.
Darvo, an acronym for...
Oh my god.
In a cruel twist of fate and irony, Lio points out that it's actually Dreamer who perfectly fits the definition of Darvo, and that Dreamer is a duplicitous, manipulative abuser that takes advantage of people's kindness and empathy. He even points out that Dreamer is a liar to his face, and Dreamer just goes thumbs up emoji.
I'll answer it. So, let me explain this to you then, because a lot of those things you just stated there don't really mean anything because you brought no evidence to the claims, which is part of that entire definition, that I'd be denying evidence you presented none. So let me go ahead and break this down to you. We told you to go away. We told you that you're treating people like garbage. You deny that. That's the first thing you do. Then you attack. You guys are abusing me. You guys are being cruel to me. And then you reverse victim and defender. Now you are the victim and we are the offenders. But you are the offender and we are the victims of your manipulative narcissism. There's another tactic of Darvo. There's a lot of people who are really good at it and have been manipulating people for years using it. Know a lot about it. Which would be it.
You know.
Which is why you can't actually point out what I've done to allegedly abusive. You just say you know. Because a Darvo person, a person who uses that, can't actually point out where the other person's actually done wrong.
They just do what you've done. Well, I'm going to mock you. I'm going to say that you have a man disorder. I'm going to say there's something mentally wrong with you. I'm going to say you have anger issues. I'm going to say that people didn't actually abuse you. I'm going to say that you're a groomer. I'm going to attack your credibility by saying you don't know how to do these things. Look what other people have done. You are the person who's been playing Dharma this whole time. You're projecting. I'm just not falling for it.
I called you out as you were reading it, dude.
So that whole speech, what did it do you there? Other than to highlight to literally everybody who's ever going to listen to this that you are falling directly in line with it? Detail.
The context speaks for itself.
Yes, the context speaks for itself that you are the person who does Darvo. You are an abusive manipulator. You abuse people's kindness. You abuse their empathy. You've abused Hidden's. You've abused mine. You abuse
my empathy, so you can trap me in your server so you can observe me there.
Hold on, what server? What server's mine?
Whose server?
Whose server?
Because you said that was a safe space for me.
I never said it was a safe space. I looked back at that call. I never once said it was a safe space. You're a liar. You're a liar. What, that's it?
Stop the Barbie thing again, holy balls.
No, hold on. No, yo, I call you out directly for the fact that you just lied. You said something I didn't have to say and your response is okay. This is how we know you're a manipulator. You don't owe me to okay with you. I want you to put a shred of evidence to anything you say for once in your miserable life.
I have a question.
The call briefly goes into how Lio trapped Dreamer in his server by saying it was safe, and when Dreamer ended up being treated like shit, he blames Lio, and Lio retorts that he didn't do that up until that point, and that Dreamer came to Lio demanding to be protected, see his apology on Blue Sky, when Lio wasn't even there. This is where I get into talk, and I detail what happened in the server that day, and how Dreamer demanded I come run defense for him, and demanded I show him I did such. Dreamer, again, noticing his lies aren't working out, instead distracts and puts a meme of a job application I sent into the side chat while clowning on him as proof that I wasn't being kind, and he proceeds to demand an apology from me, saying he'd let me speak once I actually apologized for this. He also gets fucking pissed when he finds out I recorded the first call I had with him and calls me a bitch for recording. You know, when he recorded the call from the group chat, cut it out of context and shared it around, something I haven't done until now. So here you go.
Okay, let's just make that really clear right now. I owe you nothing. I was kind to you and patient because I felt bad for you. And you decided, yeah, not only am I going to call you abusive and disrespectful, I'm also going to demand you protect me. And then when you don't protect me in a way I can see or perceive, I'm going to sit here and get mad at you for it. And that's exactly what happened. And it extended up to like a few weeks ago because you were in my DMs again and you were like, hey, this Bill person is reaching out to me and I think they're going to make a video about me. And I'm like, what exactly am I supposed to do about that? Like, I don't know why you put me on the same level as you put fucking, oh yeah, look, I responded to you with a job application for McDonald's. I mean, that's still like one of the funniest things I've ever done. Yeah,
That's exactly what you did.
Yeah, I clowned on you.
Look at my side.
Shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. I clowned on you. I clowned on you. I clowned on you.
It's right there. That was before we...
Yeah. So I clowned on you because I saw you... Yep. I clowned on you because... Yeah,
let pause for it.
Bitch, did you like to interrupt? Shut up.
Good job.
Trying to fucking spit, you stupid bitch. Shut up. Oh my god. Let me done. I didn't
let her talk if she apologizes to me.
doesn't need to. She needs to apologize for what?
Don't worry about it. So anywho, I did that because I watched your video and I thought it was ridiculous. Okay, just to make that clear. I clowned on you because your video was really, really bad. You went onto that video going on about how, oh, Vlad is so abusive, Lio is so abusive, Beckett is so abusive, Akumo is so abusive. Fun fact, I don't even like Vlad. I do not give a fuck about Vlad, but what I do give a fuck about is your ass sitting there and be like, yeah, Vlad's abusive to autistic people, Vlad's abusive to, like, queer people, and if Vlad's kid, what if they were autistic? Straight up insinuating Vlad would be abusive. So, how about, why would I be nice to you after that? First, because I have the right to dislike a public video you made, and I explained this to you before, because I have our fucking DMs. I explained this to you before, where I was like, you made the choice to make a public video. You edited that, you recorded that, you looked at everything you said, and you put it out there. What exactly were you expecting? Do you think I would get on my knees and be like, oh yes, Dreamer, what a wonderful, wonderful video you made. You're the savior of the internet. I'm so glad that you made this video. No, you made a bad video and I reacted to it. So, congratulations. And then you turn around, and this is the funniest part of it all. You came to me at first and you were like, oh, please don't make a video. I don't want to be turned into content. And now your ass is turning around, turning us into content without consent. I didn't consent to you using the call I had with you. Yes, you are. You're making content. You're making a YouTube video. That is bitch.
Okay. Just like this. I can settle this. Hop in the screen share, Dreamer.
Oh, yes, bless yourself, dude.
Why I screen share?
Oh.
Because here's the call we had. Let me know when you're there.
The call?
Yeah. Hop in the screen share. I have the call we had pull up. Let me know when you're ready.
She did record and go hide yourself, Hidden.
Why do you care? Oh wait, no, I know why you care. It's because
you lied to me.
She doesn't live in an
Yes,
area.
I recorded it, you dumb fucking bitch, because you keep fucking lying about what happened.
And this is
I
why you're.
recorded it.
Oh, sorry. It's why you're actually mad, because now all your lies can be tracked. In fact, let's go ahead and hit that play.
Lio plays a clip from our first call with Dreamer and points out that Lio was repeatedly kind to Dreamer until he started being abusive to people. Lio explicitly states that he told Dreamer to fuck off, and he didn't, so Dreamer didn't get to expect kindness anymore. Eventually, Lio talks about how Dreamer is a covert narcissist and doesn't take no for an answer. Dreamer denies this point and attacks in return, reversing the roles, making him the victim and Lio the detective, which, brilliant display of Darvel, and says Lio ignored his no about not wanting to come through this VC. This makes me snap. Enjoy Hidden Woman Yell.
Empathy? You told me no about what?
Take no for an answer from
About what? About what?
About not wanting to do this voice call.
Boo-hoo, you're the one.
Hey, shut the fuck up! Oh my fucking god! You. I'm so fucking done with you. You're like, oh, but everybody's always so mean to me. You came into Raven's space. You agreed to that public stream. You agreed to come into Ace's space and didn't leave, even though I told you because I gave a shit to take a break for your mental health. You came in here, into this call. All of these are your choices. Nobody's holding you at gunpoint to be here. Okay? So, shut the fuck up. If you didn't enjoy the attention you get when you're in here, you wouldn't be here because that's the only attention you ever get.
Oh, there we go.
This causes Streamer to just straight up leave the call. And the server. God bless, we finally did it.
Why are you still here? Go away!
Dreamer was invited back to Ace's server on the 22nd of June, where he remained up to mid-August, and we're just gonna cover all of his asinine takes in one swoop. He proceeds to be absolutely blasted because he rejoined on his birthday just to be bullied. Ace invited him. Why? God knows why, but we sure don't. I don't understand why, given everything up until now, but whatever. Originally, the entire thing starts because Dreamer claims he's confused by people in Katsaya actually disavowing Courtney and her actions, and he reveals why that confuses him shortly after. He's of the belief that Courtney had been hidden by Lio, and that Lio was shielding her. He also lies and says he never called her a groomer, which he did, looking back at the Blue Sky crash out because he actively calls Lio a pedophile and groomer defender about Courtney, therefore implying Courtney is a pedophile. He then switches his logic and says that he was actually talking about the FCK being the reason that he thinks Lio shielded predators. It's then pointed out to him just how massive the FCK is and that there was an entire channel that was locked up until recently. He then ignores the questions, instead being worried about me making a video on him. He also made the gross assumption that someone was friends with Lio solely because they were a grooming victim, and when confronted with that, simply says, "You defended Lio, so I thought you were friends," grossly ignoring what was actually stated. Upon asked why he was still here, he calls being absolutely stomped on an experience for his social life. We briefly talk about what it would take to drop this drama, and the conversation shifts to Dreamer happily attempting to share what he perceives to be Pumpkin's face in his Courtney video, a segment he later cut out. He gets confronted and admits that was fully in malicious retaliation because Pumpkin talked about his dead mom. He then gets confronted about calling Angie a pedo-shielder and with flimsy logic defends himself, and says that because she sent a mocking message, she's defending Lio and therefore also a pedo-shielder. Cool. He briefly talks about the fact that he thinks what Courtney did is worse than what Cy Scribbles did, i.e. saying being reckless around children by giving them advice she shouldn't have, and having suicidal ideation around them is worse than actively sharing links to written CP, discussing CP around children, and letting children access a not safe for work section of your server, and then playing it off as just a kid seeing furry tits. I'll just leave this here. We briefly talk about how he does his research, to which he puts the responsibility of sharing more info about Courtney on Lio rather than himself, given he's the one covering things, which, again, okay, LMAO. He doubles down on saying that Lio hit Courtney, and when I press him for evidence because hiding a predator requires awareness and intent, he's never able to give proof thereof. He triples down on this, by the way, saying Lio let children down. We again touch upon why he thinks it's Lio's responsibility to call this out, and how the evidence Lio was given at the time was damning, but no proof of predation or otherwise, along with the fact Lio was promised exports he's never gotten. I even throw Dreamer breadcrumbs are coming and telling him that it's completely fine to say Lio should have followed up on this more and not let Courtney in the server. We also briefly talk about him using his video on Courtney solely to hurt Lio, not because he actually cares, to which I express that I think that's a disgusting value to have, because weaponizing children being endangered for a gotcha is the wrong motivation to make these kinds of videos. We explain for the 700th time that Dreamer was actively implying that Courtney was a groomer or a pedophile, and we switch to the FCK again because he's asked which pedophiles Lio shielded, to which Asuka explains the intricacies of the coverage of the FCK and why it took so long. I briefly bring up the instance regarding him going to Fox Azure to misframe something Pooh said to start shit, which he excuses with, well, Vlad would have done something similar, to which Vlad replies that he in fact would have not done that. Lio and Dreamer have a brief back and forth because Dreamer threatened to come to Lio's house, which Lio happily encourages. Angie and Dreamer have a back and forth again regarding him calling her a pedo-shielder, to which Dreamer implies that she doesn't care about children. He calls anyone who sees someone doing something sus to a kid an accomplice and gets shat on immediately. This is where Ari enters the scene. Dreamer points out how he expects internet vigilante justice from Lio and again puts down his expectation that Lio should have covered this publicly. Ari pushes back with her own experience, to which Dreamer shuts down all of Ari's criticism by saying that their own grooming experience makes them biased. I'm not even gonna touch this. The criticism being that calling out a predator publicly 9 times out of 10 makes it worse for the victim and everyone involved because it goes from having a conversation to turning kids being harmed into a spectacle. Dreamer himself even suddenly walks back and says that a call-out video isn't necessary but internal talks would be, as if he didn't just sit here and actively demand that Lio make a public call-out. He then fucking crashes into a wall at 200 miles per hour, insinuating that Ari was advocating for children being groomed, which leads to everyone and their mother imploding. There's a bit back and forth about the different stances, and it ends in Dreamer changing his mind again and stating that a call-out video is necessary in Courtney's case because no one can contact anyone and the situation is severe. Consistency? We don't know her and my head hurts. I point out that him conflating the points of Lio should have looked into this more or kicked Courtney to the curb with Lio was complacent and kids being hurt is reckless, and he should be more careful in the way he presents his arguments. He insists, again, he never called Courtney a groomer, just heavily implied it, I guess, Lamal. The FCK is brought up again as evidence of Lio hiding pedophiles. I'm tired, please help. And I bring up again that Dreamer has no clue about the FCK, that the victims of the FCK didn't want Lio to cover their story, and that Dreamer is running with intent he cannot prove. I proceed to state I find the weaponizing of kids being in danger against Lio disgusting, and Lio and Dreamer get into yet another spat, where Dreamer compares Lio to Jar defending Cindy, which, please shut up, thanks, which in retaliation Lio compares Dreamer to Figos. I point out that Lio has never defended Courtney, and Dreamer mockingly replies to me, and I point out that's not proof. And Dreamer pulls the, well, Courtney was in Lio's server even after the admissions of what happened, which, again, I'm half sure Lio's early onset dementia struck and he didn't even remember what Courtney was accused of and was still waiting on proper proof, so this entire thing is kind of asinine. But the man can defend himself, and frankly, even without the allegations, I agree Courtney should have never been let into the server, so whatever. When pressed for evidence of Lio defending Courtney again, Dreamer deflects, instead demanding Lio show his full DMs with Fennec, which, deflection, cute. We briefly come to the part about showing Pumpkin's face again, and he admits that was a malicious retaliations over a comment they made regarding his family, and I disagree with that. Dreamer then demands again that Lio agree he doesn't care what Courtney did behind the scenes because he assumes that to be true, and when Lio doesn't, that somehow turns into his proof that Lio defended Courtney. What? We disagree on his intentions to bring up Pumpkin's face again, and Dreamer plays holier than thou by saying the entire community needs cleansing, as if him and his lack of evidence for serious allegations aren't part of the problem. But whatever. I point out in the end that he should simply start by being part of a better online space by fact-checking, vetting his sources, and actually being kind instead of letting his anger shape his judgment.
Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday.
Now here's a speedrun segment. I stole this idea from CalL, where we're just gonna speedrun isolated segments I don't deem worthy enough of their own sections over Coconut Mall playing. Start! On the 18th of June, Dreamer claimed that Pumpkin sexually harassed him because they said, Matt, you can't get into this coochie. This has been disproven repeatedly, and while Dreamer's discomfort is valid, calling it sexual harassment is not. On the 30th of June, Dreamer releases Isolated Thoughts. This is a 40-minute nothing burger where he briefly touches upon the ongoing drama. He whines about being a social outcast, how it's insane that he's been treated like this, and how he's been gaslit and manipulated, and how he apologized for trauma dumping on me, yet he somehow still magically is being held accountable for it. It's a long-winded ramble about how he's such a poor guy who did everything right and yet everyone hates him. Shut up. On the 1st of July, we got 2 minor instances. One is him crashing out on Blue Sky. This is where he calls people pedo-shielders, says Lio took everything from him, and throws the allegations regarding Courtney at Lio, demands explanations from him, and tells Lio he's going to make his life living hell. He calls everyone complicit than pedophilia, classy, and ends it off with a meme. The second crash out we get on this day is on Copen Seed the Stream. Beckett briefly covers this drama and invites Dreamer on for a call. This is where he apparently was high and downright almost suffered a psychotic break on stream, being consistently between laughing and crying. He's told to stop getting into cults with people and to stop crying about the stupid ass impersonation. You will in fact not stop getting into cults with people. On the 10th of July, Dreamer makes an appearance in Ace's livestream about the Shyster drama and actively tries to convince Chaotix, a 17-year-old child, that he was sexually harassed by Pumpkin. He was banned, so we don't see his messages, but the screenshots make it obvious regardless. On the 18th of July, he released this video about Courtney. While he starts off great by making actually good points, around 5 minutes out of 17, so almost a fourth of this, I'll literally just talking about me and Lyle. Here's the clip, linked to his video in the description.
Being transparent. What's so funny is I'm gonna be agreeing with Kid in this entire fucking night. People can have an opinion on whether I should make this certain thing. No. The answer is no. And it's always no. Because I just don't know people anymore. Because, you tell a 13-year-old how to jack off once, and then, now you're doing that. I also don't have a server full of minors. There's 9 on a baby. Oh my god. Think I shouldn't be doing it? Oh, you might. She doesn't have credentials about that. You have none of your own. That's not how this works. Like, when I go to a fucking scientist, and some guy at Walmart, and I say, what about the meteorites? Because the scientist has credentials, the guy at fucking Walmart doesn't. And I'm like, okay, how do you know, like, the meteorites are controlled by the reptilian arms race? And you know what he says to me? What, do I have to be expert? What, you think I don't have credentials? Well, where's your credentials? You can't deny that the reptiles control the fucking meteorites, because you don't have credentials that people believe. La 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 la. But I never sold myself as teacher of kids on how not to be doing. You do sell yourself as mommy. You sell yourself as a mom to the children. I'm just saying that out loud. But people are concerned, and you're doing nothing to dispel the concerns. Well, I'm glad Peter has concerns. I'm glad that most people here have concerns. You know, it sucks that Lyle didn't, and like, kind of lied to everyone's face. And we don't talk about masturbation. You fucking did. Fine. You know, when I talked to Lyle because he got concerned, he got concerns about the horror. I tried to remain fair because he's my friend, and for some reason he keeps you around. I wonder why. But now I sincerely hope he drops your ass because you're sounding like peaches. Whatever. If people weren't accused with you and accused you of shit you possibly didn't do, what she did. But no one here has ever seen you address things, especially because half of us weren't even aware of these allegations. Hidden, do you know why you don't know? And a lot of you didn't know? Because Lilo didn't tell you. She didn't tell you on purpose. The thing that broke the camel's back wasn't defending the 14-year-old jail instructions, or the mommy suicide bit. It was saying informed consent doesn't exist, and implying Pumpkin was a rapist. So there's the story. Courtney Pete is a danger to children. Call it coincidence, the person who likes being called mommy was shielded by a person who likes being called daddy? I personally won't be gaslit into thinking these people don't pick out vulnerable people to control, okay? If you have a problem with that, bitch about it in a video or something. I don't care. Speaking of which, I want to go over something loosely related to this. Hidden, the person who is totally on my side and just wanted civil conversation, is making a video about me. Because she doesn't like when people are on my side. So she's gonna make a biased video where she can control the narrative. Something she literally admitted in the call to me. She's probably gonna cut out all the times she and her friends were complete assholes to me, misrepresent my video for like the 20th time about how I totally said Vlad would hurt his kid for being near a virgin, and not a basic empathy question we're here in a fucking after school special. You know, just so she can sit there and say she doesn't care people are telling me to kill myself over and over again, and how popular YouTubers and their audience can harass me constantly, and that's okay because I simply won't be silent and not speak out. The weirdest accusation I've been told is like the fact that I tried to weaponize Lyle's audience. Evidence of this being the one time I brought it up in the server, literally stating I didn't want it to become a thing, and I just wanted to post the evidence for myself. Like, why can't you guys just take me seriously for 1 fucking second? No, I'm not a chronic liar like you. When I say I don't want your attention, I literally mean that, for God's sake. With all that being said, I am waiting in anticipation for that video. Is it going to be nuanced and criticize me fairly and denounce all the people who say terrible shit that baited me to acting out? Probably not. There's nothing to show that would be the case. But it's interesting nonetheless to me. Like, I wonder if we're going to talk about my origin story and like the video I did on Bullblacks. That's very important to my character arc. I personally feel. But listen, I want nothing but the best, okay? If you're going to lambast me, the least you can do is be more accurate with it. Now, do me, okay? So anyways, I'll see you guys when I see you. Kind of living on the edge here in commentary purgatory. Not really fun, but I'll make do. It'll get worse before it gets better, as they say, so bye, I guess.
And there is a later call in Ace's server where Dreamer admits he is angry at Lion and he is at Courtney, basically proving that yes, in fact, he only made this video not because he cares about children being endangered, but because he saw this as a way to weaponize the situation against Lyle. Classy. In this video, he also attempts to release Pumpkin's face, a segment which he later cuts out of the video. The video he thought was Pumpkin's face was merely an Instagram reel.
Pumpkin was a rapist. You know, the same Pumpkin who told me I was obsessed with her hoo-ha, and who gave me this kind-hearted video message.
I don't want to be empathetic anymore. I don't give a damn that you'll beat you. You still suck. Fuck you.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, by the way.
Anyways, it was.
But it's while he even did it to begin with. Wow, you really totally cared about Courtney endangering kids, and Totes didn't just make this video because you thought it shed worse light on me, Pumpkin, and Lio. We love weaponizing child endangerment in this household. On the 19th of July, like a totally normal person, Dreamer clips Gilded Poo out of context and decides to DM Fox Azure, Gilded's highest Patreon supporter, trying to incite shit. In the clip he used, he makes it seem like Gilded was calling Fox a predator.
The bottom line is the age of consent X? And if it, I don't, actually put it another way. If Hawaii made the age of consent 13, and then, I don't know, fucking Fox Azure went to Hawaii to fuck a 13-year-old, I wouldn't give a shit.
This is not what Gilded is doing. Gilded is arguing his usual point of not my kid, not my problem, and that if he really gave that much of a shit, he'd simply try to change the law. This is a dumbass hypothetical, not whatever Jima wants to make it, either saying Gilded doesn't care if his friends are predators or that Fox Azure is a predator. We will never know. Fox doesn't fall for this dumbass attempt at inciting shit, but for someone who wants to be left alone, you sure enjoy inciting bullshit through false narratives. Applause. On the 1st of August, we get graced with another call. This one is public and linked in the description. This time it's another VC in A Spaces server where everyone and their mother who doesn't have shit or dick to do with this situation tries to get a word in. Oh, and Liar's there. This call occurred while I was at work and is only recorded in parts, link in the description. Shit doesn't matter. The first hour of this recording is just everyone and their mother shitting on Dreamer, Dreamer reiterating he's going to come to Liar's house and fight him, and bullying him into showing his search history. Reiterating this all is pointless. The only important parts of this call are those in which he admits he's more angry at Liar than Courtney.
So, going back to what you said, are you more angry at Courtney or Lado?
Of course, I'm angry at Courtney for what she did, obviously. And I am angry at Lio for
The question, that's not the questions they're asking. So, sorry.
Asking you. Go ahead.
They're asking if you're more angry at Courtney than at Lio. Stop trying to duck the question. You say we're being bad faith, just answer it.
Okay, I'm more angry at Lyle personally, but publicly, people should be more angry at Courtney.
No, Dreamer, that's not how you speak. That's not how you respond. No, you're more angry at Lyle? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And this just proves to me that your fucking video, again, you're basically using Courtney. Courtney as a one-up against him. And that's fucking, you know what she did, right?
Dreamer doubling down about calling Lio a pedophile and a groomer and admitting that's what he did, after previously saying he didn't do that and even apologizing for doing that. Fun.
And even if not, we don't go around and make random accusations to get any form of attention instead of, I don't know.
You're not random.
Just are fucking random.
No, they're not.
Stop being such a crybaby. You have nothing of sustenance.
Wait. So calling Lio a groomer and a pedophile is not random?
The rest of this call is pure nonsense about everything, from Dreamer not being as scrutinizing of Say's actions to telling Dreamer to leave the internet. Very Senate accountability call course Sarkirker 2023. I hate all of you for this call because y'all gave Dreamer such a wonderful out from everything he actually did by burying him under so much shit that no one wants to unbury him anymore. And I hate Dreamer especially because why can't you just press the leave call button and fuck up anywhere else? And lastly, on the 4th of August, Ari has a private call with Dreamer. This call is just as unnecessary and as someone inserting themselves in a situation they had no business being in. All that matters in this call is Dreamer admitting he looked more kindly upon Say's actions because she was nice to him.
You look at my storage, which looking back to stupid, but hey, whatever. You said you were nicer to Sai because she was nice to you, right?
Yeah, I gave her more of a benefit of the doubt.
That is objectively a really stupid thing to do.
They argue a little, and Dreamer compares Sai sharing access to Stockholm to people analyzing Nolita, a book which, whatever, sure. And they further disagree on Sai being worse than Courtney. This call is just as fucking stupid as every other call because it's virtually an hour of nothing. It's nothing new to the conversation, doesn't touch on any of Dreamer's actually horrific transgressions, and focus way too much on the conversation of Courtney versus Sai. I hate all of you.
I have enough shit to take care of. I don't need you too. Get out of my garage!
So, we did it. We are done. This is all I have for you up until this point, and I've hated every bit of reliving it. I, in fact, hate everyone involved in this situation because you all are so fucking wild for taking out of context bullshit you have no clue about and forming an opinion on it as if you knew what you were talking about. I hate this nothing burger becoming a massive thing because people smelled an inkling of relevance since Laya was in this drama and everyone and their mother jumped to be a part on it. I'm exhausted because this dragged on for so much longer than it had to, and now I had to cover it because nobody knows what they're talking about, and there was no reason for this whatsoever. This was something we all collectively could have moved on from, but everyone chose not to. Dreamer is a malicious, stalking, disgusting, self-centered, obsessed, horrific human being that has exhibited a long history of just how awful he'll be to you if you aren't nice to him. He has no qualms with throwing out life-ruining allegations like they're his social security on a porn site, and will happily lie, twist stories, rip things out of context, and incite bullshit where he can. Any of you who still willingly invite him into the spaces that let him continue this behavior, this parasocial attachment, you're weird, and I massively side-eye you. The TLDR of this is, wow, look at this nobody making a massive wave in commentary. I can't wait to be laughed at now and then be told I was right in a year. Beans, guys. Please, for the love of God, don't be like this guy. Move on, find other spaces to be in, don't let your anger guide your hands on that keyboard. With that, I bid you all adieu, and I'm done.